My name is Taidy. I'm 8 years old, and I think I'm really good. At least, or so I think. Today is the election for our Junior Student Council president. My teacher said kids who are outspoken have a bright future. So I dared to. I dared to stand on a chair in the middle of the lawn, let the wind blow my hair like I was a movie heroine. The microphone was so loud it felt like it would swallow the whole world. I shouted at the top of my lungs, "If I become president, I will make our school the best school ever." Applause erupted all around me, so loud it made my heart swell like a brightly colored balloon. At that moment, I wasn't thinking about my plans. I wasn't thinking about how I would actually make the school better. I was only thinking how good I looked when I spoke. The small stage was packed up. My friends dispersed and returned to their classrooms. I sat on a wooden bench, holding a piece of paper with a speech I could barely remember. I gazed at the quiet lawn. Without the applause, it felt slightly different. Just now, I said, "School will be the best." But what does best even look like? I wasn't sure. Maybe I prefer the sound of applause to actually thinking about what I'm going to do. In the world of an 8-year-old, standing a chair taller than everyone else felt like standing taller than the whole world. But I still didn't know how far that height would take me, or if it would make me forget to look down. My dad helped me draw the lettering on the sign. My mom helped come up with a catchy slogan, "Choose Taidy and you won't be disappointed." I read it over and over again until I started to believe it was true. I walked around the school holding the sign, waving like a star walking the red carpet. Some friends smiled, some just nodded, some looked and walked past, but in my head, every eye was a cheer. A boy named Pun approached me. He wasn't holding a sign, he wasn't waving. He asked simply, "So, what are you really going to do?" I answered immediately, "Make everyone happy." It was a good, simple, and safe answer. But Pun made a face like he was solving a difficult math problem. Then he said softly, "Happiness is something you have to do, not just talk about." His words weren't loud, yet they were clearer than the slogan on my sign. I don't like Pun's words. They make me look incompetent. The sign in my hand is still bright, the lettering is still clear, but questions are growing in my head. Am I just selling pretty words, or am I actually building something real? Cheers might make your heart race, but one question makes it beat even harder. In the world of an 8-year-old, having nice words might make people like you, but in a bigger world, people might ask, "What will you do after you finish speaking?" And I still don't have a clear answer. Election day has arrived. The ballot box is placed in the middle of the classroom. 3 teachers surround a desk. They begin picking up ballots one by one and counting the votes. I stand in front of my desk. I smile broadly. I frequently adjust my hair. It feels like a camera is constantly filming me. Ballots are opened, names are read aloud. Everything seems exciting, like a competition. But the teachers count very quickly. So quickly, it's as if they're in a hurry to go home. Some ballots are barely examined. "Taidy! Taidy! Taidy!" My name rang out repeatedly, like the hottest song in school. I felt more confident. My heart pounded with joy. Some cards were revealed very quickly, some were barely visible, but the sound of my name continued. Finally, the teacher announced, "The winner is Taidy." Applause erupted immediately. I bowed gracefully, as if I had practiced this moment for a long time. The applause continued, but my gaze drifted to another corner of the room. Pun stood there, holding a score sheet in his hand. His expression was serious. He didn't clap.
He didn't smile. He stared at the paper, as if scrutinizing odd numbers. In a room filled with cheers, a subtle silence lurked. I didn't know what he saw, but his eyes softened the applause in my ears slightly. Sometimes the loudest thing in the room might not be the truth, and perhaps counting too quickly might leave something behind. That morning, school was unlike any other. Instead of laughter spreading across the field, a group of children stood in a line in front of the school building. They weren't shouting or running around, but standing in a disciplined line. In their hands were pieces of colored paper with messages written in faint colored pencils. We demand transparency in the vote counting. Our voices are not toys. Verifiable is trustworthy. I watched from the second-floor balcony. My heart was pounding faster than when I was on stage. This wasn't applause, it was a different kind of sound. Pun stood at the front. He didn't shout. He just spoke in a normal voice, but everyone heard him. "We'd like to request a recount." The disciplinary teacher stepped forward, his face serious. "Children, don't make a big deal out of something small. I counted correctly." Pun immediately replied, "If it's so correct, why are you afraid of a recount?" The question lingered in the middle of the field. No one rushed to answer. Sometimes a short question carries more weight than a long explanation. The atmosphere was heavy. I saw some parents dropping off their children to stop and listen. The adults' gazes were more serious than the children's. I began to understand that this wasn't just about a small chair in front of the flagpole. It was a bigger question. Are the rules we believe in still sacred? In a child's world, protesting might seem like a game, but in the adult world, many things start with lining up like this. I looked at my own hand, which used to wave proudly. Today, it trembled slightly, because sometimes the position one has gained may be lighter than the questions that follow. The school held a general assembly in the field. The children sat in orderly rows. The principal spoke in a calm voice. "We must maintain peace and order." The word peace sounded like a beautiful word, but today it felt like a heavy rock. I was called onto the stage. The applause was softer than before. A gentle breeze rustled the microphone. But inside, I was in turmoil. I took a deep breath. "Everything is going according to plan, Professor. Everyone is working diligently." Pun immediately raised his hand. "What are the procedures? Can I see the details?" The principal answered for me. "The children trust the adults." Excitement began to build around the field. I looked down at my friends. Some of them looked puzzled and tired. I started talking about floating in the air. And what about the notifications? Like there are no ropes tying us down. Suddenly, a little girl stood up. She spoke in a clear voice. "If it can be trusted, why must we not watch?" The entire stadium fell silent. The question was small, yet it pierced deeper than a long speech. I stood on a stage higher than anyone else, holding the loudest microphone. But in that moment, I knew that a high stage doesn't mean people will listen, and a loud voice doesn't mean words will carry weight. Sometimes what makes people believe isn't a command to believe, but the courage to reveal the truth. That night, my father turned on the news. The image showed adults arguing about the national election. The conversation was loud and serious, filled with words about righteousness. I turned to my father and asked softly, "If the vote count is slightly off, is that considered cheating?" My father was silent for a moment before answering slowly. "It depends on who benefits from that wrongdoing." His answer wasn't loud, but it silenced me all night. I went back to the small table in my bedroom. I opened the score sheet again. The small numbers were crossed out, erased, and rewritten. I tried counting them myself, slowly, one sheet at a time. This time,
There was no cheering, no one watching, just me and the numbers. The result changed. I didn't win. My heart stopped for a second. It wasn't cheating, a malicious scheme, but it was haste, the thought, it'll probably be all right. Those small words changed everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the applause that day. It was so loud that I forgot to listen to anything else. But now it's no longer stable. I'm beginning to understand that many things in the world fall apart, not because of great evil, but because of small carelessness that no one wants to take responsibility for. In the silent bedroom, I asked myself one question. If that mistake had benefited me, would I dare to admit it? Sometimes the truth isn't as loud as applause, but it's heavy enough to keep us awake at night. The next morning, I walked straight to the stage. Some of the teachers hurried over to me. "The matter is about to die down. Don't bring it up again." I shook my head gently. If it's quiet because no one dares to speak, it's not peace. Those words silenced the adults for a moment. Sometimes silence doesn't mean everything is all right. It might mean that no one is brave enough to speak. The entire field fell silent. I gripped the microphone tightly. My heart pounded, but my voice was clear and distinct. I checked the scores. I didn't win. A murmur immediately arose. The principal tried to interrupt, but I continued. If I accept the position, I might seem competent, but our school won't improve at all. Work is more important than me. The words weren't loud, but they were clearer than ever. I turned to look at Pun. "I'm sorry." Tears welled up, but I didn't let them fall. At that moment, I felt so small, even smaller than when I stood on the chair on the first day. But strangely, I wasn't afraid, because the first time, I wasn't trying to make myself stand out. I was trying to make the truth stand out. And sometimes, courage doesn't make us look great, but it allows us to stand tall, no matter how small we are. The votes were recounted in front of everyone, one ballot at a time, slowly. The children took turns reading their names, and the teacher carefully recorded the scores. No one rushed, no one interrupted. The field, once filled with commotion, was now filled with concentration. The result was as I counted. Pun won. This time, no one was surprised, as if everyone knew deep down. He stepped onto the stage awkwardly. No music, no extravagant promises. He spoke briefly. "I'm not a good speaker, but I want everyone to watch my performance. If I don't do well, please tell me." The principal stood silently. The atmosphere wasn't like the first day I won. There was no overwhelming excitement, but there was something stronger, like deep tree roots, though not towering high. After that, Pun started working for real. He posted progress reports on the board every week. He detailed the budget for repairing the swings. He invited friends to help make decisions. There were no pictures of him plastered all over the school, only a list of tasks gradually crossed off as completed. I walked past that board every day. It didn't make a sound. There was no microphone, but I felt it spoke louder than any speech. Some people have to stand in front of a stage to be remembered by name, but some, they just get the work done, and that work speaks for them. Months passed. The once leaning swing was repaired and made sturdy. The once overgrown lawn was neatly organized. A suggestion box stood in front of the school building. There were no more sculpted nameplates in every corner. There was no longer a large portrait of Cao Yai in front of the flagpole. But everything gradually improved. It didn't change overnight. There were no loud announcements. It changed quietly, like a tree growing taller every day without anyone noticing immediately. One day, a little boy said, "Our school is such a nicer place now." No one mentioned Pun's name, but everyone saw his work. I stood listening and felt something in my heart slowly becoming clearer. Making yourself stand out is easy. Just speak loudly, just get people to notice. But making your work stand out requires silence, patience, and allowing your work to lead the way. It was then that I understood. Sometimes the greatest things are not the people standing on the stage, but what is created after everyone else has left. I still love talking. I still love standing in front of the stage. The spotlight is on me. The sound of the microphone still makes my heart race. But now, before I say anything, I always ask myself, is there anything behind what I'm saying? Is there a job behind it? Or are they just pretty words floating in the air? I don't want to be someone whose voice is louder than my work. I want my work to be louder than my voice. Sometimes society is like a rushed vote counting process. Sometimes people unintentionally prefer those who talk a lot over those who actually do the work. But I'm starting to see that good words should have sweat behind them, and a good promise should have a few stains of paint on its hand as proof. If an 8-year-old dares to step back to make things clearer, would an adult be brave enough? This doesn't end at school. It might start somewhere, where someone is standing on a stage with beautiful words, but without a job. And perhaps that person could be us. The lesson from an 8-year-old might not teach how to win, but it teaches that true courage is choosing what is right, even on days when no one applauds. One evening, the stage in front of the flagpole was empty. No microphone, no speech. But the playground was stronger, the lawn was neater, and there were more smiles on the children's faces. I stood watching everything silently. Pun walked over to me. "Do you regret not standing there?" he asked softly. I smiled and shook my head. "Not at all. As long as the work remains, that's enough." It was then that I understood clearly. Don't let yourself be more prominent than the work. Try to make the work more prominent than yourself. Because fame may be temporary, like the sound of applause that gradually fades, but good work will endure quietly and speak for itself for much longer. Sometimes true success isn't about having people call your name loudly, but about what you do continuing to improve even when no one calls your name.